Last time on Ace Attorney Investigations. Edgeworth here. Turbo recap power! We investigated the cargo hold and found out that Hicks was actually an Interpol agent. However, the murder weapon was still a mystery. But then the Borginian idiot accidentally fell down and everything became clear.
He
fell to his death?
Could this new piece of evidence help in proving Miss Teneiro's innocence? Find out on Ace Attorney Investigations. Next!
What's this?
The statue looks like it's stepping all over its neighbor's cloth cover. It kinda resembles his owner's attitude in a sense.
You! What did you say now? Further, my clothing's hem is not being stepped on by anyone! It is too expensive for me to allow that to happen.
Please forgive the trespasses of my subordinate.
Why should I forgive if trespasses? Unless it is an expensive dress, you keep it.
Is this spot somehow connected to any of the evidence I hold? I know just the piece.
This isn't sloppiness, this is a contradiction. Eureka! There is clearly a contradiction here.
What are you going on about? This is just a simple case of a cargo cover getting stuck under another piece of cargo. That's not possible.
But it is. It shouldn't be this way, but the statue is on top of the cloth. Supposing that the neighboring piece of cargo was brought on board in Zhongfa, there is no way that any part of it should wind up under something from Europe.
Which means that this fake statue was smuggled on board in Zhongfa.
But then, what about the cargo certificate?
Let me ask in return, what about Agent Hicks? Why did he come down here in the middle of the flight? There is only one reason why. To secure proof of smuggling activity aboard this flight.
So you say, but I don't believe he had to do that mid-flight. We could have just as easily inspected all of the cargo after the plane landed.
That may be true. However, you have it backwards, Franziska. Sure, Agent Hicks could have waited until after the plane had landed. But he had a reason for coming down to the cargo hold. Suppose he had found the fake at the airport. It would have been after the swap had occurred. At that time, the suspicion would naturally fall onto the statue's owner, who would have no way to prove that the statue was switched without his knowledge. Which means there is someone involved who is forging or modifying cargo certificates. And now the sweet symphony of my credibility bar refilling.
I guess the victim knew the real version of this was gonna get nabbed, huh?
Yes, while this photo could be seen as nothing more than a simple souvenir, it was in fact taken to be used as a reference document later on. Next, Agent Hicks had to secure proof that the smuggling had taken place. He came down here to take a picture of the cargo hold. A rather empty one at that, right before the fake statue could be loaded on board.
A photo of the hold missing a valuable piece of cargo would have been proof enough. After that, all he had to do was hold the Zhengfa cargo crew and arrest the smuggler.
Exactly. This only goes to prove my theory. If the statue was not in the cargo hold during the Europe-Zhengfa leg of the trip, there would have been enough height from which Agent Hicks could have fallen to his death.
Officer! Move the statue immediately! I want a thorough examination of the floor underneath, now!
Miss Von Karma, I'm ready to report my findings.
Go on.
After moving the Alif Reid statue out of the way, we tested the area under it with Luminol, and there was a reaction.
I see. There was a reaction to Luminol, an indication that there's blood in that spot.
Oh, can we stop looking at it now, sirs?
It would seem that my deductions were correct after all.
I suppose it would appear that way.
The culprit cleaned the blood up well.
And how do you think the killer did that?
How did the killer clean up all the blood? With a swatch from the Sixth Doctor's coat, of course.
Take that!
The killer used the bloody cloth I found inside the suitcase to clean up the mess.
I see. They had a need to clean up all the blood before the plane landed in Zhangfa.
Yes, because otherwise the cargo crew would have discovered it during the layover.
So what you guys are saying is that the murder happened before the plane landed in Zhangfa?
There is no other conceivable timeline for the events of the murder. But if that is true, then that throws a certain person's testimony into doubt. If the murder occurred before we landed in Zhangfa, then this becomes highly suspect. Recall Miss Meele's testimony about Agent Hicks in regard to when we departed Zhangfa.
I saw Mr. Hicks sitting in his seat at 5 a.m., you know.
She claims Agent Hicks was alive at the time of the service calls, but...
That totally contradicts the facts, sir!
But why would she lie about something like that?
I think the only person who can answer that is Miss Meele herself. Miss Meele. Miss Meele! Do you recall what you said earlier? About when you answered some service calls as we were departing from Zhangfa? You said that Mr. Hicks was sitting at his seat at that time. However, that is simply not possible! Because Mr. Hicks was dead long before we ever touched down in Zhangfa.
Oh?
Miss Cammie Meele!
Maybe I didn't see what I thought I did?
No one could make a mistake so large, Miss Meele.
Oh, but I make that kind of boo-boo all the time.
This is going nowhere. There must be a better way of resolving this contradiction.
Very well, Miss Meele. If you please, tell me about your alibi during the time span. From just before we were to land at 3 a.m. and 6 a.m. when the body was found.
Are you telling me I'm a suspect, Mr. Edgeworth?
No, I'm telling you you're the culprit.
Yeah. From 3 to 4, I was, in the flight attendant's room all by my lonesome self. Yeah. And from 5 to 6, I was, in the flight attendant's room all by my lonesome self.
How is a man supposed to react to a testimony like that? Miss Meele, wake up! She fell asleep again. It looks like the only way I'm going to be able to wake her up is by pressing her. And don't think for a second that pretending to be Cousin It is going to throw me off. Now, where to begin tearing apart Little Miss Narcolepsy's testimony? Hold it! So you were alone the entire time, were you?
Yeah, no one else even popped their head in to say hi.
Oh. Well, I think a contradiction just popped in to say hi. What should I do? Should I raise an objection? Miss Meele, there is a clear contradiction embedded in your testimony.
Huh? What are you talking about?
It's not possible that you were alone in the attendance room the whole time from 5 to 6 a.m. Although I would not put it past you to be so asleep that you didn't notice. Take that! I wonder if you would be so kind as to take a look at this receipt, Miss Meele.
A receipt? For what?
It's for the suitcase Miss Teneiro bought. Now, if I may direct your attention to the timestamp. As you can see, it clearly says 5:40 a.m., Miss Teneiro.
Yes!
Huh? Why is the killer here? I thought you'd have her locked up by now.
I requested that she be present as a witness so that we may straighten out your complex lie. Now then, Miss Teneiro, between the hours of 5 and 6 a.m., You took a trip from first class down to the first floor in-flight shop, correct?
Yes, I went to the shop to buy a suitcase. After which, I went straight to the attendant's office to drop it off.
And did you see Miss Meele there at that time?
No.
So, Miss Meele, where were you really between the hours of 5 and 6 a.m.? Miss Cammie Meele!
The bathroom?
I'll be the one to ask the questions here.
Yeah, maybe that's it. I probably just missed her. Nature calls, you know.
Do you take me for a fool? That's a little too convenient to be true.
But it's the truth. Cross my heart.
I don't have enough conclusive proof to counter-argue her at this stage.
You don't believe me, do you? But please, won't you give me a chance and hear me out? Look, I know you're suspecting me because I'm one of the crew. But you'd think that maybe you should also suspect Mr. Rhoda, too. She's the one in charge of the elevator keycard in the shop, you know. If you ask me, that makes her super suspicious.
Please leave Miss Teneiro out of the conversation. Only you are under suspicion for now.
I don't get it. Why are you covering for Miss Rhoda all of a sudden? Oh, now I get it. Maybe you've got your eye on Miss Rhoda.
Of course I'm keeping an eye on her. I can't very well let her escape, can I?
Never mind. But you want to know something? Miss Rhoda actually kinda like...
I have absolutely no interest in people who can't appreciate my sense of design.
Now's not the time for this sort of talk. She's neither beauty nor she's grace, because her work's a complete disgrace. She's lying at a fast pace. She's most certainly not Miss United States. Hold it! And what are you in charge of, Miss Meele?
I take care of the attendance room.
That doesn't count!
Aw, but I spend so much time in there, it might as well be my responsibility.
Mr. Edgeworth, Cammie is very talented in languages, so she assists passengers who may not speak English. Especially those who speak Borginian. She is the only one on this flight who is fluent.
Oh, you mean that kind of what am I in charge of? Why didn't you say so in the first place?
What else could I have meant?
Yeah, so I'm really good at Borginian.
She's fluent in Borginian. Then I suppose you're in charge of processing documents in Borginian.
Yeah, I take care of anything that has to do with Borginian.
Very interesting. Amateur mistake, Miss Meele, letting me get to know that piece of information. It's like you're not even trying to throw me off your scent. Objection! Useless. It's all useless. So, you are the only one in the flight crew that speaks Borginian. Is that correct?
Oh, yeah, I guess so. I studied abroad in Borginia for a while.
If that is the case, then the signature on this document belongs to you, doesn't it? This is a falsified piece of documentation with only one purpose. To lead anyone who read it to believe that Mr. Lablanc's statue was loaded in Europe. The only person who could have either prepared or processed this document in Borginian is you, Miss Meele. Without your participation, the smuggling of the Alif Reid could not have occurred. Don't sleep while I'm pointing my finger at you!
I wouldn't dream of falling asleep on you, Mr. Edgeworth. It is exactly as you say.
Are you confessing to having participated in the smuggling?
No, far from it. It's true that I was the one who signed off on that document. But you can't use that fact alone to make your allegation of smuggling stick. There's no direct correlation after all. All you have is my signature on a piece of paper.
Really? All you did was sign it.
I neglected to check if the cargo had been loaded onto the plane properly. So, sorry about that.
It seems that she's finally woken up. This is going to be one tough fight.
Suppose, and this is just a supposition, even if I was involved in the smuggling, you can't throw the charge of murder on me just like that.
Objection! If you were involved in smuggling, you would have a strong motive to kill. Agent Hicks was in the middle of investigation regarding a smuggling ring. And just when he was about to close in, he's killed by a member of that ring.
Well, did you ever stop to think that maybe Rhoda is the smuggling ring member? After all, unlike me, Rhoda has access to many things on this plane for work purposes.
So perhaps there is some element of a setup at play in this case.
What are you talking about?
Don't worry, I wasn't talking about you. I meant the killer. First, it was myself, and now it's Miss Teneiro who is under the microscope. Seems to me that our killer is going to great lengths to pin this crime on anyone they can.
You have no proof that Rhoda is being set up, or that she isn't.
Actually, I believe that she was indeed the intended target from the very beginning. I believe that the plan was to push all of the blame for the crime onto her. And this evidence will prove my suspicions. This proves that the killer was out to frame Miss Teneiro from the very beginning. Take that! The killer could have hidden the body anywhere, and yet they chose the suitcase. Why is that? Perhaps it was to move the body up from the lower deck to the first floor. However, why go through the trouble to do so? The only way all of these actions make sense is if the killer had wanted to frame Miss Teneiro for the murder. Miss Teneiro buys a suitcase on every flight she works without fail. But should her suitcase be switched with the one containing the victim's body, that would put her in a very tight spot. Unfortunately for the killer, the turbulence put an end to that plan. There wasn't enough time to put the body back into the suitcase. Ergo, they made do with whoever was at hand, adapted their plan, and tried to frame me as I lay unconscious on the floor from the turbulence. The killer then went to hide the suitcase in the in-flight shop, and brought the piggy bank back to the elevator in order to fabricate a false weapon. A lot of work for a fruitless endeavor, wouldn't you agree?
Sounds like the killer had a tough time too, huh? I mean, why did the killer need to frame someone that badly anyway?
That is because of the special circumstances surrounding this particular case. What special circumstances dictated the need for the killer to frame someone? The special circumstances is simply that the murder took place on a plane mid-flight. No matter which country, customs is quite strict in this day and age. So no matter what you do, the chances that the body will be found is very high. Therefore, there was no choice but to frame either Miss Teneiro or myself. In other words, the only one who fits within the boundaries of the criminal's movements is not Miss Teneiro or myself, but you, Miss Cammie Meele! Only you and you alone could be the killer!
Are you done already? I was about to fall asleep again. Anyway, let's be honest here. You don't have anything on me other than a whole lot of circumstantial evidence.
I can see the outline of how the murder occurred, but I have no definitive evidence. And isn't there a piece of evidence that's still unaccounted for? Something that I still can't quite fit into the big picture. Like this. Take that! I don't have any actual evidence.
I thought not.
But that's because it went missing and still is.
Missing? What do you mean by that?
In the complex puzzle that is this case, there was one piece I kept getting stuck on, and that is the victim's cell phone. Franziska, you were waiting at the airport for a phone call from Agent Hicks's cell phone. Or at least, that's what you told me.
That's right.
But Agent Hicks's cell phone could not be found at the crime scene.
You mean the killer took the phone with them?
Precisely. I suspect that if we were to find that phone, it would lead us to the killer.
Come on, get serious. If the victim fell to his death from that height, wouldn't his phone break as well?
We won't know that until we try a little experiment, will we? Franziska, I'd like to ask for your assistance. You know the victim's phone number, do you not?
Yeah, of course I do.
Agent Hicks' phone! It's ringing from somewhere, sir!
I hear it, Detective. Now where is it coming from? Not from Miss Meele. One wishes it were that easy.
The ringing's coming from somewhere in here, sir!
Leave no stone unturned, Detective Gumshoe. We must find it! The ringing is coming from somewhere around here.
But it's not here, sir.
Why do I have such a bad feeling about where we're going to find the phone? Don't be in Miss Teneiro's locker. Don't be in Miss Teneiro's locker. Don't be in...
The ringing's coming from in here, sir.
Oh, God damn it! What? No, it can't be!
This has gotta be the victim's cell phone. Just whose locker is this anyway, sir?
It's Miss Teneiro's.
What?
So, Mr. Edgeworth, how did it go? Where did you find the phone?
I found it in the flight attendant's room, in Miss Teneiro's locker, as if you didn't already know.
What? But
Rhoda Teneiro!
I don't know anything about the phone. It wasn't me. It wasn't me.
Miss Von Karma, is it? I suggest you arrest Miss Rhoda Teneiro right away.
Objection! Wait! I have a theory. This is related to the incident with the keycard. When the killer went to steal the keycard, they conveniently stashed the cell phone in Miss Teneiro's locker at the same time.
Objection! This is related to the keycard, all right. In the same way, we have zero proofs that the killer did just that. The only voice that sings the truth is evidence. That is the one bird we cannot ignore.
What should I do? Franziska's right. I can't offer baseless conjectures at this point. Alright then. Why did the culprit take the cell phone from Agent Hicks? It must have something very incriminating on or in it.
Hold it!
What now, Miles Edgeworth?
It's not over yet. We have yet to figure out why the killer took the phone.
What?
Inside this phone lies the final piece of incriminating evidence that will point us to our killer. We need to examine this phone in more detail. Time to put on my spectacles. Let's see. Ah, it's a camera lens. Come to think of it, I wonder, how exactly was Agent Hicks planning to preserve the crime scene of a smuggling? Franziska, I need you to confirm something. This cell phone, can it take pictures?
Mr. Edgeworth, I can't believe you don't know about this kind of basic stuff, sir.
This looks like a very similar model to my own. And mine can take photos just fine.
Do you think Agent Hicks could have taken some pictures with this? In particular, pictures as evidence for his smuggling case. If so, I'd say there may be some very inconvenient photos in here for our killer smuggler.
But the phone's all busted up, sir.
Even a super prosecutor can't repair a broken phone.
I'll find a way, don't you worry about that.
May I go back to sleep now?
Objection! The LCD screens on the insides and outsides are broken, that's for sure. But that's also reason enough to believe that the killer wasn't able to erase the data.
What?
What do you mean by that, Franziska?
It looks like our killer isn't very familiar with electronics. This phone still rang when I called it, meaning that only the LCD screens are broken. It's possible that the photos are still there inside, waiting to be accessed. All we need to do is transfer the data to my phone.
Franziska, your phone, if you please.
Very well. It's transferring. Alright, displaying it now.
This is...
Agent Hicks was most certainly trying to obtain some evidence for his smuggling case.
Hey, look! The Alif Reid's nowhere in this pic, sir.
But this has no meaning as a piece of evidence in this murder case, right?
Ouch, she's right. There's not much we can find out from this about Agent Hicks' killer, sir.
Is this it? Is this the end? Is there really nothing in this photo that we can use? I have to find something. Boxes of bedsheets. These are still in the cargo hold. There's nothing unusual about them in particular, but I can't shake the feeling.
If you're just playing around, mind if I go home?
Yes, I mind! I need to focus on what's different now from back then. What's all this?
Oh, their cargo ship from Borginia to Zengfa.
So, the reason they aren't here now is that they were dropped off in Zhengfa. Mr. Lablanc, can you tell me the contents of the boxes? Unfortunately, there is no English written on them anywhere.
One cluster of boxes is written in Borginian. It says Pasina. It is cloth in English.
Cloth? Could it be? Is this where the killer...
What? What for is that scaly face?
Miss Meele,
Yes.
it appears that Agent Hicks was no ordinary investigator. He left us with a piece of evidence after all. A striking piece that will point out who his killer is.
Ha! Maybe you should enforce your mistaken reading of a simple picture, Mr. Edgeworth.
The Borginian cargo in this piece of evidence will point us straight to the killer. Take that!
And what is that supposed to prove?
The killer used this piece of cloth to wipe up the blood they had spilt. But there was one thing that bothered me this whole time. Where did it come from? And now I have finally found my answer in this very photo. The cargo that was unloaded in Zhengfa had cloth written on it. In Borginian, that is. And this is where the killer grabbed a piece from to clean up the blood with. That's right. The killer was someone who could read and understand Borginian. And the only crew member that fits that description is you, Miss Cammie Meele.
Hold it! Ha! That's pretty flimsy. The killer probably searched through all the boxes looking for something to use. But when you're frantic, you don't care if the box is English or Borginian.
Objection! Sorry, but I cannot agree with your assessment of the killer's indiscriminate nature.
What?
There was no need for the killer to tear through boxes at random at all. And if the killer supposedly could not comprehend Borginian, well then. Logically, the killer would have opened this box first.
Objection! Objection! Hold it! Hold it! Eureka! Take that! Take that!
Look, it says bed sheets in English right on the box, sir.
The killer knew that it was going to be unloaded in the Republic of Genfa?
That's right. That is why the Borginian cloth was used. And the only Borginian raider on board who could make such a calculated decision...
They're taking her down to the precinct now. Hopefully we can get more out of her there. It was scary, sir.
It looks like there's a lot more to this case than meets the eye.
Let's start project.